Hello, and welcome to 100% Real with Ruby. Now, nutrition is something that we second guess. Let's just say diet in general, food, carbs, calories. We struggle with our food choices. We know that nutrition is probably the thing that's holding us back. We think that unless we're eating bare minimal, we're not going to see results. We think that unless we go really strict, really hard, cut out carbs, we're not going to see results. But every single time that backfires, number one. Number two, it is not that you only see results on 1,200 calories, and it's not that 1,600 calories is your maintenance, because neither of those are true. So with that little introduction, I'm going to bring back, I think this is our fourth podcast now, and we spoke about a million things to do with what makes nutrition easier, what can make it more simpler, what can make it more like feasible for you to actually stay consistent with, so you actually get results that last. But one thing that I see more than anything, and I know you do too, is social life, is meals out, is, just who wants to cook every single one of their meals? It's very unrealistic to expect that you're going to do that. But most people feel like if they can't be all in, then what's the point tracking that meal? If something is too complicated to track, they don't track that meal. But then there are also others that don't want to track at all, whether it's because I don't blame you, especially if the way that you've been taught to track has been so restrictive. If the way that you've been taught to track has been by a coach or a nutritionist that doesn't actually understand coaching, because coaching isn't about getting you to track your food to the nth gram and then demonizing things and putting you down for not being perfect on your plan. Yep. And another thing that I hear, which is the last thing I'll say before throwing it over to you, is people who don't believe they can get there because I can't have my goals and foods I love at the same time. It's impossible. But what I feel like I want to know your take on that last part in particular before we backtrack into the social lives and meals out. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you've tried before, you've burnt yourself out, you've done all the discipline, the restriction, and it was miserable, only to gain fat back, only to lose your results. Or you think that all the structure, all the discipline, all the sacrifices you need to make now are forever, and the hardness you need to feel now is forever. But I would argue that you probably never go back to the original way that you were eating once you realize how good it is to feel good. And once you realize that all you've wanted all along is to, number one, yes, feel that good, but you're seeing results now. You're loving the results you're getting, and you're realizing that you don't have to be all or nothing, like go all into the things that you love, and you can actually portion control now, because we stripped everything back to the bare basics and then built upon that. So with that, go ahead, Brooke.
Wow.
So let's try it.
Yeah, there was a lot of good stuff in that intro. I think what people realize, like once they start working with someone like you or myself, is that they start to eat these foods. Like I've had people come to me, their coach wouldn't let them eat fruit. They wouldn't let them, they've been on prior programs where they were on extremely restrictive diets. They were afraid to eat carbs. They were just every little thing that they put in their mouth, they would scrutinize. And when you're following a restrictive diet and you're following strict rules, it doesn't really help you learn how to navigate day-to-day life and day-to-day situations that you're faced with. So I think what tracking your food does is it shows you like, oh, wow, I can incorporate all these different foods that I once thought were forbidden. See that you are getting results. See that because you are prioritizing protein and fiber, which you should be, that you actually fucking feel full for once in your life. So then you're not coming home at night. And I have a little Kirby doll on my shelf that's too far away for me to get right now, but you don't want to turn into Kirby and inhale your pantry every night.
Wait, Cobby, as in like Cobby, like Bobby butt with carbs.
No, Kirby, the little pink. Hold on, I'm getting it. 1 second.
No, I need to see this. I need to see this.
You do need to see it. Here it is.
But
this is Kirby. Do you remember Kirby, or am I just too old?
Where's Kirby from? Oh my goodness, that's cute.
He's a cute little cartoon, and when he gets hungry, he inhales everything around him, like plates, food, like everything. So I use him in my content sometimes we don't want to turn into Kirby. But anyway, so most of the time, and I'm sure you see it too, when people come to work with me, they're like, I am ravenous at night. They start their day off with like a little like 80-calorie yogurt. They have a sandwich with like a slice of turkey on it, maybe. Then maybe they have like a protein bar. A lot of people start their day off maybe with just coffee and then don't eat until God knows what time.
You didn't mention cheese and butter.
Oh yeah, bread. That cheese, your favorite thing to talk about.
Cheese and butter. Can we actually highlight these things though? Because most people don't think about the cheese. I mean, most people do think about the cheese and they love it, but a lot of people don't think about the butter on the bread. And it could be even a thin swipe of butter, and that could easily be 80 calories. Yeah. And then you have another one of those, and that's another, who knows, you probably put a little bit extra, and the tiniest little bit extra would be probably another 120 calories instead of 80, because butter is calorie dense. And so is cheese, depending on which cheese you use too. And cheese is on absolutely everything. I think in America, I don't know, please message me if there is a situation that's not like this, but every single time I get sent menus, you actually have to ask for them to not put cheese on things or to not put butter on things, because there's things that come with oodles of butter. And if it doesn't come with butter, it comes with bread. And if it doesn't come with bread, it comes with fries. And if it doesn't come with fries, it comes with mash. Like,
yeah. Yeah, well, it's true. And if you are someone who is constantly going out to eat, you might think you're making a lighter choice when in fact your meal is slathered in oil and butter, and you would never know necessarily, because that's how they make the food taste good. They want you to come back. They want you to think their food is fucking delicious. They don't care if you're trying to diet. And so I tell people when they go out to eat, in your tracker, put at least a tablespoon or two of olive oil to give yourself a little buffer. And honestly, that's probably not even good enough.
I would argue something that's a flaw in that part though. I would never, ever, ever use tablespoons or spoons for oils or butters, especially, but just in general, because fats are calorie dense, and your tablespoon of oil could be clocking 50 calories or 80 calories. I don't actually know because I don't do tablespoons, but if you actually weigh it out and it's like 10 mils, that's 90 calories.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm saying to just give them, I agree, but like to just make sure that there is that little bit of calorie buffer. I would, of course, if they were home, want them weighing in grams. But again, I think that when you're deciding what you are going to choose as far as what you're going to log when you're out at a restaurant, I always say opt for something that you think might be a little bit higher, pick one of those, because the likelihood is it is higher in calories than you think. But yeah, it's really hard to lose weight if you are going out to eat constantly. It just is.
Exactly. But like, I'll mention some things and I want you to feed off me.
Sure.
You can pick a salad and it can say the salad is 638 calories. Cool, you log that in. But that salad could easily be 1,200 calories. And I'm not even exaggerating. It most of the time is double the calories that's on there. And this is why your 1,600 calories is not your maintenance, because I highly, highly doubt that most people are eating in every single one of their meals. And I highly doubt that every single one of you logging every single little tiny thing that you put into your mouth 24/7. And something you're very big on is your licks, your bites, your taste, your chews. Now, yes, okay, we're starting this podcast out with a lot of things that could be troubleshooted, but we're going to give you some practical strategies on stripping it all the way back, because that's what I introduced this with. Because as soon as we start to strip all the things back to the bare basics and get you to be okay with that, it's like, do you want results or not? Yeah, okay, you've done it before in the past. And the fact that you're not willing to do it again because you've been doing this for years, I think it's just the fact that people have been doing this for so long that they're not willing to actually just do it again because they're exhausted, they're tired. But I can promise you that if you do it with a coach and not just use the coach for the minimum time period or for the one session or for just a few months, and actually at least give yourself not even 1 year, but just invest 2 years into it and you'll be set up for life. I can promise you that, because once we get you down to these bare basics, we get you into this restraint, this structure, this like, yeah, okay, we can remove the flavors, we can get you down to there, and then work intimately with your coach to then start creating some flexibility around that. But so many people, I don't even think it's a fault of, I don't like saying I don't think, but I don't think it's a fault of your own, because sometimes, yeah, okay, you're putting it upon yourself because you don't want to change. But the reason that I would say it's not a fault of your own is because social media makes you feel like it's bad. You have obsessive issues. You're too restrictive. It's diet culture, blah, 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 blah. Well, dude, no, it's not diet culture. It's not what you're doing that makes something bad or not. It's the intention behind it. It's why you're doing it. So I'm just going to let you take that.
And I'll say too that people who think that tracking is like, oh, diet culture and oh, it's restrictive. It's like, oh, when did you learn a bunch of shit about nutrition in school? Probably never. You probably took a health class once and it was probably taught by a gym teacher, or that was my case up until I actually went to go study it on my own in school and did certification, whatever. So most people don't know. So if you take some time to track, it's like, oh, wow, I had no idea. Like when people all the time, when they start tracking with me, they're like, I had no idea that I was consuming like 300 calories worth of peanut butter on my toast every morning. Yeah, that's one of the benefits of tracking, is you actually learn about what's in your food, how to build balanced meals. And it's so, and you don't have to do it forever. You eventually can wean off of it, and you can always refresh if you need to here and there, but it's so helpful and so educational. So I just think everyone should do it. For not every single person, but the majority of people I think would benefit from it for a time at least.
What other realizations do you see when people start tracking? Let's start here with the tracking and the realizations, and see if anyone listening to this can relate. And then we'll move on to the best ways to make use of it in a way that can serve you long term, because I think a lot of people just track to hit numbers sometimes, or just track so they have a log, but they're not actually learning in the process. But I think the realizations are the most important part. I'll start off with two, and then I'll let you take off. The first one is, I had a client come to me who was nibbling a lot at nighttime. She was never hungry in the morning, so she would just put off that meal, and then she would eat something pretty decent for lunch. And her dinner was pretty big, but she looked it. But then after that, it's almost like the calories didn't exist, but she also turned a blind eye to it. She came to me not tracking after doing that for a while, because her thing to me was, I don't see a point in tracking anymore because I'm not getting results anyway, so why bother? And then when I got her tracking, I didn't get her to aim for any numbers like most nutritionists do. I didn't get her to aim for anything except, I want to see you tracking every single thing that you eat consistently. What do I know? Already progress in the first week. Do you want to know the best part of it? Because she had to log everything for me, no more dessert snacks, nothing. Because she had to now face the fact that if she's going to eat it, she has to log it. And now that is too much effort. So what did she do instead? If she wanted anything, it'd be a bag of popcorn, easy to log. The next week, because we already made progress, we added something in. Usually I don't add in another habit. I leave something for a month. But we added another habit. Let's nail your breakfast. Let's actually get food in now for breakfast. All of a sudden, dinner was sorted. Wasn't having such big meals at dinner. She didn't even want to snack anymore. So the popcorn went. Everything at nighttime went. Start off with small habits. So that's one. It can get you to stop doing that. The second one I'll bring up with the awareness around food tracking, which I think you'll bring up bites, leaks, tastes, and chews. So I'm going to let you talk about that and where that can show up, because sometimes people aren't even aware of it. But the other one that I find a lot of people realize is just how many calories are in avocado. How many calories are in nuts and seeds, because they used to snack on almonds, and then they'll be like, whoa, I didn't realize how many calories are actually in almonds when I weigh them out. I didn't realize how many calories are in the avocado I usually have. Oh, wow. I didn't realize that the salmon doesn't actually have as much protein as I thought, but it's loaded in calories. And
Right.
because this is a different one, but I do think it's important. You mentioned a slice of turkey, and a lot of the turkey sandwiches out there, it's deli turkey.
Yeah.
Deli turkey, yes, it is really good source of protein, but it's also a really good source of carbs because they usually use carbs to process the deli slices, and there is still not enough protein in a turkey sandwich. So this can be where that prepping comes in, but we'll talk about that later on.
Yeah. Well, I think too, people realize like they're physically not eating a lot of food because it's like nuts don't take up a lot of space, do they? Avocado doesn't take up a lot of space, but it's like so calorie dense. So people are like, I barely eat anything. It's like, well, you eat like very calorie dense foods, and that adds up quickly, but doesn't make you feel full. So I think that's like a huge realization for people. I think also the fact too, I would say this is the case probably almost like 100% of the time, is people are eating like probably half of the amount of protein that they should be eating every day. And in addition to that, their fiber intake is so low.
Fiber is a bigger one, I would say, for fullness.
Oh, I think both are so important, but I think fiber, fiber really isn't emphasized as much probably. And I think it should be. And also too, just like all the benefits from fiber too, for like feeding like the gut bacteria, all that good stuff too, helping keep us regular and all that as well.
What do you say to clients then who they feel like keto is going to fill them up more, or that carnivore is the best approach? Because there's so many people saying that fats and proteins are satiating in themselves.
Yeah.
And what would you say to the fiber there?
I would say that I don't have people who come to me interested in following those diets, but I do have people who have tried, like, I guess you could say they tried doing keto before, and they did lose weight, but they gained it all back and then some. And I would say, yeah, like if you're focusing on like a high fat diet, like, yes, it may, like if you are going more carnivore, you're probably getting, of course, a decent amount of protein. But if you're following a keto diet and you're eating higher fat, that is definitely not going to be satiating. And like, I'm sure you've seen those pictures where they show like a stomach with like fat in it and a stomach with like veggies in it. Have you seen those?
Yeah, I have, but I've also heard a lot of people saying that it is satiating. But something I would actually argue here is a lot of people who do carnivore and keto think that it's a way to not track calories. But over time, okay, you might be the same weight. But the thing is, you're actually made of more fat now because you've lost glycogen, you've lost water weight from cutting out carbs. But then you're not even realizing that you're adding on the fat mass over time, and it slowly accumulates. And okay, you might stay that weight for a while, but any weight you do gain back is, number one, going to be water, but it's going to be mostly fat because you're not fueling muscle growth when you're not having carbs. But one thing I just would quickly wanted to add on there, when you said the protein and the fat and not being satiating, something that comes up for me is, this is really powerful, because this is something that I sent you about the dopamine thing, if you check your Instagram right now. But if you allow yourself to have highly palatable foods, which you don't really have on a carnivore diet, if that's the way that you're going, if you're doing a specific keto diet that you're trying to do really healthy with clean foods, then that's a different story as well. But that's why they work, because it's cutting out highly palatable foods. Cutting out highly palatable foods stops you with the cravings. It stops you with, okay, I want more and more and more and more of this. So that is, I reckon, something that holds a lot of women back. They don't understand that hunger isn't hunger half of the time. There's a dessert stomach for a reason. There's you inducing hunger because you're thinking about a sweet food, a craving food.
Yeah. And even like just walking past like a cake or something can make you want to eat it, even if you're not hungry. So, I mean, keeping certain things out of your immediate environment for a time might be a good strategy. We can talk about that at some point. But I think, one of the benefits too is when someone is switching from, like, I guess you can call it the standard American diet, which is a lot of very highly ultra processed foods, and then they are focused on more of like something like a carnivore or a keto diet where they're eating mostly whole foods. I'm not saying that I like either of those diets, but there is a benefit for eating mostly whole, minimally processed foods to help you feel more full versus what they may have been eating before, which is like, again, like lots of processed carbs that are also high in fat, and things like that. So I think that shift.
Oh, that's huge. Sorry, two things that you just said. Number one, lots of processed carbs that aren't high in fats. But number two, why put yourself into such restrictive diets when you can literally have the same effect by just eating like a normal human being?
Well, right.
And making those food choices mostly whole foods. Again, this comes back to it's not diet culture. Why is it all of a sudden diet culture to eat really like minimally processed foods? We can actually say, why can't we demonize anything that comes in a packet? Eat mostly whole foods, mostly fresh foods, things that either come from an animal or that are picked off a tree or out of the ground. Why is that suddenly diet culture? Why is getting steps suddenly diet culture? But, going keto and going carnivore isn't.
Well, and it's funny too, because like, as far as like diet culture, it's like, well, our environment isn't really very conducive to living a healthy lifestyle. So you have to almost make more of an effort to do, like, years ago, people worked outside, they did manual labor, they walked everywhere. It's now everywhere you go, there's drive-through. You could get anything delivered to your house. You never have to leave your house if you don't want to leave your house. So, I mean, it kind of does make it so that you do need to make more of that effort. And I wouldn't call it diet culture. It just kind of is us versus like all the shit that we're kind of like faced with at this point. Convenience culture.
I want you to go further into that because I think this is really important, actually.
Well,
because a lot of it is actually we need to actively do extra work to end up not where we don't want to be, because our environment is more and more conducive to ending up obese, to ending up unhealthy.
Well, yeah. And I don't know if your feed has this on, and I wish mine didn't, but all these people, like, what are they called? Mukbangs or whatever, where people are eating absurd amounts of food and filming themselves while they do it. I mean, portion sizes are bananas. I mean, it's just like overconsumption culture. And I think that people are just like it's hard when you go out to eat and you're given a plate of pasta that's like this big. What are you and so many people, Ruby, and I'm sure you've heard it too, they grew up, you need to clean your plate. So what are they going to do? They're going to clean their plate. You know what I mean? So
keep going. This is really important. And the mistakes that people make with tracking, I want you to keep going into that as well.
Okay, I will. Yeah, sorry. I'm sort of tired.
That part ties into it. That part ties into it. I want you to keep talking on that part, because I feel like a lot of the mistakes we make with tracking are because we are so used to doing the things that we've grown up with, and the cleaning the plate and the messaging there. I think they tie in together nicely, but then I'll feed back onto that because I think that part's important. And I do have an example.
Yeah, no, I think it does all tie together. And I think it's really hard to unlearn things that maybe our parents kind of like put on us. And, watching your mom do XYZ diet, they're always on a diet, therefore you're always on a diet. I have people who would come to work with me. They tell me that they started going to Weight Watchers with their mom when they were like 12 years old. Do you know what I mean? Like it's a lot to kind of like unfuck your brain out of like the way that you've thought about food your whole life. And also you have not had any sort of education in what and how to eat. So what are you supposed to do?
Yeah. What do you see show up with a lot of your clients? There's another one that I see a lot, and that's people like, sometimes one of the biggest struggles is overthinking our meals, especially weekend meals. It's almost like the weekend has this I don't know, like this aura about it that just makes it so much harder for people. Tell me, let's talk about that.
Well, that's a good point. I think that with the weekend, it's almost like I have some people who they track pretty meticulously during the week, and then I look at their logs and weekends are blank. And I almost feel like people are like, well, you know, I have this going on, I have that going on. Well, so-and-so is in town, this and that. So I'm not going to track. So it's like, if I can't track perfectly, then fuck it. And I feel like fuck it. And sorry, Ruby, I know you don't care if I curse though. I feel
not at all.
I feel like the fuck it's are what fucks people up. That is like, you've heard the saying, oh, I got a flat tire, so I'm going to slash all the rest of the tires. Like, who does that? You don't do that with other things in your life. But for some reason, when it comes to taking care of yourself, I can't do everything I think I should do. So therefore, I'm not going to try it all. And I'm going to go buck wild. And then I'm going to come back on Monday and everything's going to be fine. And I'm just going to keep repeating this cycle. Weekends and weekdays need to look a little bit more similar. And even if you feel like maybe you're not going to track, that doesn't mean that your choices need to be completely shitty the entire day.
Yeah. Check your Instagram again. Something that I think is really important to touch on in regards to this is, if you can understand when you're tracking how to assemble meals and put them together, it makes it that much easier for you to then take that structure and apply it to the weekend, which I feel like is one of the most important parts, which is why I think that, not I think, why I know as a fact that if you guys can put together kind of a whiteboard, I would say get a whiteboard. If you can put together what you're eating for your breakfast, for your lunches, for your dinners, for the whole week, those main 3 meals. And then I actually don't even like calling it breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Let's just call it meal 1, meal 2, meal 3. I would argue putting in somewhere a meal 4. Let's have 4 meals through the day. And then we can, if you're someone that likes dessert, put in dessert, but you need to choose one or the other. You can either have a dessert or you can have indulgence. I don't like the word treat. Indulgence implies you need to be mindfully eating it for it to actually be indulgent, because indulgence is an experience, it's a sensation. And if you're having it as an emotional, oh, I just had chocolate, that's not an indulgence. If it's not if you're not sitting and eating with mindfulness, that's not an indulgence. So you pick your poison. Is it a dessert or is it something through the day? Because you can't fit both. Those meals, put most of your protein into that, put most of your produce into that, because then your dessert doesn't need to be something that has protein. If you're protein deficient through those 4 meals, then yes, okay. A tray, like you can put some protein with it. Whoop-de-doo. You can even just have whatever it is you want to have, like an ice cream, and then just have a little bit of a shake on the side. Or I don't like drinking shakes. They do nothing for me, but I would get the powder and put it into like a little paste. And I would just eat a paste or a mousse. You can like fluff it up regardless. There's that. Or you can just get yourself a Greek yogurt and make room for 100 calories of a Greek yogurt. Whoop-de-doo. That's going to give you 12 grams of protein, 15 if you have a super high protein one. So there's things like that. But I would say have that structure. Plan out your meals.
Structure.
I know that you're going to say this as well, but we're going to kind of lead into this because this will tackle the bites, licks, tastes, and chews, because it's going to get rid of that. Log your food in ahead of time for the whole week. I don't know why people don't do that. Why would you want to live on your app 24/7? If you have a structured day for the one day, copy it across for the whole week. Simple. Because then all you need to do is go into there if there are any chops and changes. Oh, but if I do that, what if this happens? Oh, well, now you actually are able to do whatever it is you want to do. You have way more flexibility, because if I want to go out and eat dinner with, let's just say if I want to eat dinner with my partner one day, I know that I have my dinner calories X and I have my dessert calories X. So all I need to do is be like, okay, well, that together is about 800 calories, 900 calories, let's say 800 to 900 calories. I just need to make sure that I get at least 45 grams of protein, because I have 45 grams of protein in that meal. And then Bob's your uncle. So I will make sure that whatever choices I make are within that allowance. But how do you know what's under 800 calories when restaurant meals aren't the same? Well, you track your food for a consistent amount of time. You go out to eat and you don't say fuck it, you track what you're eating. I always get asked, should I track how do I track my food? What do I do when I'm going to eat out? Should I just guess? Should I just not worry about it? No, track your food. Seriously, track every single time you go out. If your usual option is not tracking, is saying fuck it, then you need to track every single little thing that you eat. The more that you can track and be okay with being imperfect and push into that discomfort of being imperfect with your tracking, the more successful you'll be. You don't have to do it forever, just like I do. I don't track my food when I go out. I have my own meals in there. So I know what my allowance is. I don't have to worry about it. I just make sure that it's within that. But you bet your ass that I used to track my meals out, and I used to add the 10 mils of oil so I can get used to what my main options are. I have this thing with my girls where it's just like, what places do you frequently visit? Pick the main options. You don't need every single restaurant under the sun. Pick your main ones. For me, I would like to know yours as well, but I'm just going to say my take, and then I want your take on this one, and then I'll let you talk about what I sent you. But my places, I love Subway. Subway is a big one for me. I also love a simple Mexican, but there's only one Mexican in my area that I like because it actually does things where I like. It has, typically, I don't like brown rice, but when it comes to a burrito bowl and when it comes to me not cooking the brown rice, I like brown rice. I just refuse to cook it. I prefer white rice. So there's this particular place that only does, the other one does white rice. This one does brown rice. The other one does a lot of added shit to it. This one does black beans. I love black beans. And they do a really nice, they do a really nice salsa, all that kind of stuff. So I go to this particular Mexican place. I will talk about the food choices later. So there's Mexican, there's Subway, and then there's a typical restaurant, not restaurant, but just like a typical place that would just do, if it was a restaurant, it would be one that does a grilled protein with some form of veggies. And if there is another option, I would make sure that that place allows me to be a bossy bitch. Because if it's fries and if it's mashed, I'll say, I want my potato to just literally be a boiled spud with nothing on it. Because like, it can be like, oh, that's diet culture. Oh, you need to control. You know what? I'd rather feel satisfied when I'm eating. And I actually don't like I don't like chips unless I make my own spud light in the air fryer. And because I am so used to, this comes back to, yeah, it's hard to start with. But if you start conditioning yourself month after month after month, even just within the 4 weeks, because it's shown in research, within 4 weeks, you change your taste buds. For some people, it's even within 3. And that's why when you go out, like I have girls that have been with me for months, but in the start, I should say, that have in their first month of starting with me, on that last week, they went out to, let's just say, a holiday or a vacation on a weekend. They come back and they're like, I feel shit. Like my body just did not handle that food very well. I crave veggies. This is so weird for me to say. You change your taste buds. You just need to go through that hard part. But then the hardest part there, which we talk about a lot, and I know that we mentioned it on a past podcast with therapy, if you feel like this is now you suffering because you can't have these indulgent foods to serve a purpose, which is to feed your emotional needs, then I would say, what else can you do to feed those emotional needs? Because now it's not a food problem. It's not you struggling with the food. It's that you used to go to those foods for comfort. So if you're still having a tendency to go to these foods for comfort, we need to fix that as well. But that's a side tangent. So I'm going to put that part aside. We need to be aware of, I don't even know what tangent I was going on there because I kind of got distracted because
it's okay.
What was I saying? I completely forget.
You were talking about your favorite restaurants, and then you were talking about therapy and
the restaurants. That's it. So that's the thing. I was talking about potatoes. The potatoes, because I don't like the oiliness of fries. But then mashed potato is still filled. This will be for you to talk about there's butter and oil and everything.
Yeah.
There is so much butter in mashed potato. But there was a restaurant that I actually went to that I didn't know that they would put butter on my veggies. So I was a bossy bitch and I asked them to replace my veggies. I'm sorry, but if I'm paying a certain amount for a meal, I want to enjoy my meal. And I did say that I didn't want butter or oil on my meal. I just apparently didn't mention on my veggies. So I did ask for it. But then
Yep.
I said, there's butter on my veggies. Can I please get some without the butter? Because I'm not enjoying this meal. It's too, the plate was oozing. Like
Yeah.
you could see it on the plate. I was like, what the fuck? The chicken wasn't that dry. It was actually pretty succulent, but there was no butter or oil on the chicken at all. It was so good because I got lemon given with it. They put extra pepper on it. And still a whole poodle of just yuck.
Yeah.
Like you need to be aware of these things when you're ordering your meals, because it might say, I already said it could be double the calories, but they put butters and oils and everything. So this is why have your restaurants that you can pick and have your main meals that you would pick from there. I love seafood. I would say any seafood restaurant, but seafood's also really expensive. So if someone's going to tell me that I can pick my most indulgent food and have my biggest indulgence, it's not chocolate and it's not pizza and it's not cake. It's a seafood restaurant, but I'll let you take it. Oh, actually, yeah. So those are like my main restaurant thingamabobs. It can be anything under the sun under those categories. So then I have the meals that I would pick from there. Subway. This can be anything that has like bread and like you assembling your own bread meal. I would, number one, not put any cheese, not put any sauce. I would get double the chicken, double the protein, because they usually don't put enough. And then I would get every single part of the salad that I enjoy, all of the salads that I enjoy. And then I would ask for salt and pepper and extra salt and pepper. And I typically, when I'm at Subway, I would ask for 4 times the amount of normal pickles, and they still don't put enough pickles. So then I would ask for even more than that, because their version of 4 times the normal pickles is abysmal for my love of pickles. And then for the Mexican, this is where you speaking up is really important. I will say a burrito bowl. And then I would say, I want double the protein in the burrito bowl. I want the chicken. And sometimes they have another lean version. I can't remember the other one, but usually I just go for the chicken. That's why it's all I remember. And then I'll get the brown rice. I get the black beans. And I would get triple the salsa. And I'd ask for extra lettuce as well. So it bulks up the meal. I will say, I don't want guac. I don't want sour cream. And I don't want cheese. Oh, you're going to say I'm taking out the fun from there. Well, you know what? If I can make room, if I wanted to make room for the cheese, and I hate sour cream, so I would never say yes to that regardless. And if I wanted to make room for the guac, I would do that. But I would rather eat those really dense calories like we were speaking about before. Like we don't know how many calories, what calories are in cheese. I'll let you talk about that as well. But we don't know just how much calories are in guac and cheese.
Right.
I would rather put those calories elsewhere in my day, fill up on this meal, which isn't really that filling for the calories, and then be able to still eat what I'm eating afterwards. And then obviously I already said the grilled protein and the thing, so I'll let you take over now.
Yeah. And I think that those little substitutions that unfortunately I think they're like, oh, I don't want to be a pain in the ass. I'm like, okay, do you know how many people have like illnesses, allergies? Like you're not being a pain in the ass. And also you're paying good money for that meal. You should ask for what you want. And they're more than happy to make modifications. And if they might be like, yeah, well, there's a little bit of an upcharge. Okay. So for you to have that substitution, you might have to pay like maybe a couple more dollars, but you're going to get what you want and feel good about it. So, I mean, just keep that in mind. You're not being a pain in the ass. A lot of people have food allergies nowadays and also have, other substitutions that they might need to make for medical reasons. So I always tell my clients to keep that in mind. Never feel bad for speaking up. But yeah, those little, I know you wanted to talk about the bite, select, sips, and tastes. I mean, I think that those are what is one of like the biggest like killers as far as like throwing people out of a deficit, because it's things that you absent mind, like you don't even know you're doing it some of the time. Like if you're walking through your kitchen and you have like Hershey's Kisses on the counter and you just pop a few in your mouth, the handful of nuts that you took, like, out of like a bowl of like trail mix or something, whatever.
Can you put calories to everything you're saying, like rough calorie ranges so people are aware?
Yeah. So what it was my first example. I know we were talking about like dressings or something like that, right? Like that's hundreds of calories. And then nuts too, a handful of nuts. That could be like 200-300 calories or something like that, like depending on how much you're taking. I mean, it's just like those little, they just really add up. And I think that when people are more intentional about that, and then making sure that I tell people track before you eat as much as possible, because then you kind of don't run into that issue. But yeah, cooking oils, forget it. Hundreds of calories. People pouring creamers in their coffee could be hundreds of calories.
Like even like eating your kids' scraps is probably one of the biggest ones that a lot of people don't realize. Like people are afraid of wasting food as well. But I would say they're like, food is wasted all the time. Yeah, it doesn't mean add to it. I get it, but still, what is the purpose of that food? Isn't it just wasting it if it's not actually serving your body? Like if you try to paint it that way and reframe it, it's different. And the other part to this is you're not aware of what you're not aware of. And as soon as you start putting numbers to things, as soon as you start logging things, as soon as you start realizing, hey, cool, I am actually, no, sorry. I want to flip that. You want goals. And then you complain about not getting there. You complain about not seeing changes in your body. And then as soon as your emotions spike one day, like you can be in routine for a good month and then start complaining about the results that you're not getting. But you forget that the prior month you were okay with, oh, I'm fine with eating like this. I'm enjoying myself. You need to be realistic about your actions and what you're committing yourself to versus your expectations, because if your expectations exceed that of what you're able to do and what you're willing to do, that is when the conflict starts to come in.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, but you can't expect to go out to eat for so often. Like if you're going out constantly to eat, it's going to be really hard for you to make progress if you're doing that. I think that's something as far as the whole, I know a lot of the struggles with a good amount of my clients is balancing having more of a social life, which you can have, but you really do need to be very intentional with your choices. It can't be a free for all, every time you go out to eat.
Talk to me about that, because social life is the hardest one.
There's a lot to say about it, and I'm sure we could probably do a whole podcast on that just in and of itself. But I think that there is something that happens with people where they think that, okay, I'm going out to eat, so that means that I guess there's the social pressure. People think they have to, oh, well, they're drinking, so I have to drink, or they ordered this, so I have to do that. If I order a salad, oh, someone's going to make a comment, or whatever the healthy choice might be that you're making. And in some cases that does happen. And what I say to people is, if someone is making a comment about something that you're eating, that's a them problem. That's not a you problem. And I always say, what is this person? What are they like? Do they have their shit together? Are they someone that you admire? Do they take good care of themselves? And guess what, Ruby? The answer is always no, because no one who is taking care of themselves and in a good place is going to make you feel bad about taking care of yourself. So that's something very, very important to keep in mind. No one should be making any sort of comments about what you're doing to take care of yourself. And it's usually coming from someone who is in a bad place themselves. So please try and keep that in mind. I don't know if you have that conversation with people, but I have that conversation pretty often.
I find a lot of people are actually in denial about the habits that they're doing with their social life, because they feel like they have to give all these things up in order to get to their results. But I actually want to talk about a lot more practical steps just to tie this episode. In the last 10-ish minutes of this episode, we do want to give you really practical takeaways, because we said that we want to make things really simple. We want to make things actionable. And as much as having structure can freak you out or feels like it's too much, I would say the number one thing to do is to plan out pick 2 meals, either your first meal and your last meal, or your first meal and your lunch. Pick out 2 meals, log them in ahead of time. Make sure they have all the protein and fiber that you need to get in. I would say that your first meal is going to set you up for success for most of the day, because it can either fill you up or leave you ravenous after. And if you're doing a highly palatable meal, that's going to leave you ravenous after. If you're skimping on carbs, your body's going to be craving energy after, because your body is needing that for your most active part of your day. If you're not eating enough plants, you're going to be hungry. If you're not eating enough protein, I think I said that, you're going to be hungry. That's a really big part there. But I would just say, just have basic structure. Make your meals a 7 out of 10 on the taste factor, because the more tasty you make your meals, they don't have to be an orgasm in your mouth every single time you eat. And if you're going out every weekend, it is not a special occasion. So make meals something that, number one, satisfies you. Try to get as many nutrients on your plate for as little calories as possible, but don't just go for the calorie allowance, because if you're only going for calories, you're going to skimp on fueling yourself adequately. It needs a balance of fueling and it needs a balance of volume. You can't just have volume without fuel, and you can't have fuel without volume, because somewhere there's going to be a mismatch that isn't going to serve your goals. So that would be my first thing. And I would definitely say, get as much color on your plate as possible. The more color you can get on your plate, the more filling it's going to be, the more healthful it's going to be. And that's going to keep you until the next meal. That is going to help with cravings, because if you're not getting in enough fiber, if you're not getting in enough protein, you're going to be hungry beyond what your body actually needs. But I know this isn't related to food, but it has a lot to do with your appetite. Move more. If you're not getting at least 8,000 steps, your appetite is going to far exceed that which you are doing physically. Anything else? I'll let you give some steps.
No, I think that's wonderful. And I think that something that people need to realize is it's almost like that structure that you've been lacking is what's going to set you free in a way, because you're going to be like, oh, wow, like I actually can do this because I've set myself up to do it. Like, it's almost like a no-brainer. It's foolproof. If you set yourself up to make good choices, you will make good choices. Yes, you will have to set aside a little bit of time to prep some meals and pre-log your meals and whatever the case may be. But in doing so, then it's less to worry about as you go. So I think that the planning and the structure is really the key, especially if you're a beginner. And then the other thing that I know that you and I talk about all the time is it's the therapy portion of things, because you really do need to work through the emotional baggage, whatever, like things that your patterns, all of that stuff. It ties into this so much. It's all connected. So I do encourage that with all of my clients as well. But it's really just showing up every day and doing the simple shit over and over again, and kind of learning to like just fall in love with being consistent, not being perfect.
I like that. Consistent, not perfect. But the therapy thing isn't just about food. If you're down on your body image, you're not going to be successful with your food, because food isn't about food. And if you're always trying to change your body, if you're in a rush for fat loss, that's going to show itself through your actions, and your actions are going to actually take you further away from your goals, because they're going to be out of desperation, not out of improvement, not out of health. And I would argue that the worst relationship with food is one that is from a mindset of, I need to change my body. It's not saying that changing your body is something that you can't do. In fact, it's the thing that's going to ignite us to want to improve our health and fitness. And it's then that we fall in love with the process if we do the process the right way. But it's the structure that sets you free. And you pretty much eat the same foods on a rotational basis anyway. And it can be so much more simple than you think. I reckon that avoiding the bread is probably your biggest pitfall, because bread and knowing how to assemble a sandwich that serves you, I'll say that again, is probably the biggest hack, because that is the fastest lunch that you can make. And that saves so much money. A lot of people say that they don't have money to hire a nutritionist or a coach. Save it on your lunches and on your takeaway coffees that you get twice a day, and start putting it to the things that are going to improve your health in numerous ways beyond what you think possible. And if you have to get something that's a takeaway, why not save money and put that into a meal prep company? Because I would argue that that's a better option if you're getting takeaway. Anyway, for me, I would never get meal prep because it's too expensive. But that's only because I don't buy a whole bunch of meals out. But if you're already getting meals out, a meal prep company is beyond better. And the logging ahead, I'll let you sum it up with, what difference do you see with people who actually log ahead, and how have you seen not logging ahead fail them?
No, people who log ahead eat what they logged generally because they've already done it. It's there. They come home from a busy day at work. Oh, I didn't go to the drive-through because I have my prepped meal. It's already logged. You're more likely to make the better choice again when you have set yourself up to actually do it. And if you're winging it at every meal, yeah, that sucks. Like to have to like scramble around when you're tired. So get it done ahead of time. And then again, it's like you just kind of can breeze through. And if you need to make adjustments throughout the week, okay, but at least it's like pretty much already all set for you. Winging it is going to fail you. So don't wing it.
What's your approach right now with everything? How do you make it so easy for yourself? And why do you find it so easy to do now?
For me? Oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Ruby. It's time for bed for me almost. But yeah, no, for me, I eat a lot of the same things. I pretty much have the same breakfast, same lunch, and same dinner throughout the week. I do have a little bit more flexibility in my schedule sometimes, so maybe I am able to cook something else during the week. But generally, I have a really good idea of what I'm going to prepare for the week. On Sunday, I set myself up for the week every single week. That's what I do. That's what I preach. So that's what I also recommend to my clients as well. And it has helped me be very successful.
Yeah. And something that I'm actually going to start doing now, I finally see this is the trade-offs thing. So you can have, this is a great way, I reckon, to end this, because everything comes down to trade-offs. Just like I mentioned with, if you're choosing to eat out all the time or to not track your food or to not have portion size meals or to think about what you're eating, then be okay with the trade-offs of either taking yourself further away from your goals or pausing your goals. Because I think the belief that both of them are separate is what leads to that mindset. You can have both, but the trade-off being, I finally just started planning out my meals in a way that I'm going to meal prep this weekend for the following week. Whereas before, because I wasn't willing to log in my food to be able to prep my meals or to know what I'm going to eat or to know how I'm progressing with the nutrition side of things, the trade-offs were, okay, well, I can't be completely sure if I'm eating in a way that's serving my goals. So that can easily impact my performance. That can easily impact my muscle growth. But I know that the choices I make are at least aligned with maintaining muscle and doing the best I can with my performance, because I'm high on carbs regardless. But the thing that it held me back from is, okay, I'm just going to have to keep eating the same shit every single day until I'm willing to put the effort into shifting my meals, which I still eat the same shit every day anyway. It's just I need to now have this structure to allow me more flexibility, because my partner is, once he finishes complete, because we never eat out, because he tracks everything to the absolute gram, including peanut butter needs to be to the absolute gram, everything to the absolute gram, because he's stepping on stage. And that's exactly what you need to do for a fat loss phase, but you don't need to do that forever. And something that he said to me is, I can't wait till I can start eating a little bit more normally and be able to just have a meal a week where I don't even give a shit about what I'm doing. And you can do that in maintenance once you've already mastered the rest, and he's already mastered the rest. But now we're waiting until he finishes all his comps up in about 4 weeks time, and then we'll be eating out more. So I need to make sure I have the structure there so I know where I can fit in these meals out. Otherwise, I can't complain if my performance gets impacted, which I've been doing this for years. And that's the point. I always, I know as a fact, I always make choices that are somewhat aligned, not completely off track. But I also know how good it is to feel good, how shit it feels to not perform well the next day, to have a disgusting gut, to have horrible bowel habits. Once you can align yourself with how good it feels to feel good and get results from it, you're going to start making actions more aligned with that. But it takes getting started. It takes pushing yourself through the messy middle, which can be a month or 2 months, even 3 months before you start to see something show for it, because it's a delayed aspect. But then it's just going to come hitting you like a pummel of bricks in a positive way. And the same way that your negative habits will come pummeling, you can say, I'll put it off. Oh, it doesn't matter. I'll let this slide. And then all of a sudden, 3 years later, you're wondering how the hell you got here. You're not going to fix that in 12 weeks. No. But you can start making a change to improve where you're at. Is there anything else that you want to say?
Yeah, I do. One other thing that kind of ties into what you were saying is it's not even like 2 or 3 years down the road. It's like you want to eat and treat your body well so that you can age well, so that you have reduced risk of chronic disease. Like all the stuff that you're doing now, it's going to build. And at some point, if you keep putting yourself to the side and you keep putting yourself on the back burner, at some point, you might get to the point where, unfortunately, I work with a lot of people in these positions where they're on dialysis, they have diabetes, like they have heart failure, like you do not want to get to that point. I'm not trying to, be a downer to end the episode like that, but it's very real things that happen to people. So you have to start taking care of yourself now and take yourself serious. You take this seriously and make sure that you are doing all that you can to just live a long, healthy, happy life, because this will eventually potentially catch up to you. And you just want to do everything you can now to prevent that from happening later.
I love that. Exactly. It's prevention, and you'll save so much more money long term by investing in your now, hiring someone to help you out, and investing the time into logging ahead now and learning how to log, because then it becomes a lot more easy later. I literally just said I haven't been logging for ages. And if you know what my body looks like right now, I did not get fat. I did not lose muscle, because I understand basic food principles. You can say that I'm a coach, so I should know that, but I've been doing this for 10 years. And I usually track things all the time because I love it. I actually love having some form of tracking because I know that I'm eating enough for my goals. I know that my carbs are now fueling me, because for me, it's more so I want to make sure that I am eating enough for my work to pay off. I don't want to be working my ass off in the gym to not see any change because I'm not eating enough for it. And I know that many of you don't want to be putting in all of this effort to still be in the same position and then give up on everything and then not put in the effort, just like we said this whole podcast, for the very reason that people just don't give a bother anymore because you put in the effort and you burnt yourself out. So I would say do it the right time this time and forget your past failures, realize you have a good coach this time and move forward with that.
Yep. I love that. Beautifully said.
So, with that, I love you guys. Thank you for listening. And if you have any takeaways, if you have any questions, anything at all, let us know, because Brooke and I always have little conversations back and forth, and we're willing to put anything together that could help you in any way. And you will hear me on the next podcast, but I do highly, highly appreciate anyone that gives us a rating. I say it all the time, but I know you hear me say it all the time. It's just a matter of like actually doing it, because everyone probably says it, so you don't. Anyway, please, 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 love you. Bye.
Thank you.